Welcome back to another video from the Debate Room Podcast. This episode 142. This is our NFL draft reaction. And at the end, we're also going to react to some of the game threes from the NBA playoffs. We've been going for like 5 or so days. So it's been a lot of basketball. The draft also got underway, and we weren't able to record it last night when it started. But the draft has been entertaining to say the least. A lot of narratives been going on, blockbuster trades. And so we're going to break all that down on this episode. But before we get into it, Q, what was your overall reaction to the draft? I know he was locked in the whole time, especially yesterday and today, based on like all the moves and all the narratives. What was your overall reaction to this year's draft?
Uh, for the most part, all the teams that needed to get better got better. A lot of them they covered a lot of their needs. This draft obviously didn't have a lot of star power, but it had a good amount of starters. And I think for the most part, teams came away with what they wanted of the draft. Obviously, a few picks every year that just kind of confused, kind of head scratching. But for the most part, it was good draft. There's still a lot of value left. Obviously, the big story is Shedeur not getting drafted in the first 3 rounds, but we'll get to that.
I'm not gonna lie. I feel like for a minute, this feel like one of the drafts where there weren't that many bad picks. I don't think there were that many losers either. I think a lot of teams added quality players that fit their team, that are going to be impact players on the team going forward. I don't really think there are that many bad picks. I don't think that many losers, especially after the first round. First round was definitely not that many losers. Today, some people made questionable picks. Wouldn't necessarily make them losers, but maybe drop that down their grades overall for the draft. So I think, as far as I know, this is one of the deeper drafts in terms of talent in the second round, talent in the third round. We're probably getting quality starters, quality players. Not obviously going to be some players that just break out and overplay their draft position. But even where they're projected to be in NFL, where they are in the second and third round, it's pretty good. We got Luther Burden in the second round. Mike Green fell top in the third round because of some character issues and stuff like that. Will Johnson fell to the second round because of his knee injury. So there were just a number of quality players not going to the first round, and they fell to the second round and third round. And so that's going to bode well for teams. But to parlay that, we're going to talk about the best and worst picks from the first, or it says first 2 rounds. I mean to say first 3 rounds. So what are some of your best and worst picks of the first 3 rounds, Q?
Number one probably be Josh Simmons to the Chiefs. I understand he had the injury history with the ACL, but again, it's 2025. Modern medicine is better. Coming back from ACL is a lot different than it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it may be. If he was healthy the whole year, he would have been a tackle number one, and the Chiefs got him at 32. I think Malachi Starks and Mike Green falling to us without us having to trade up or anything like that. We get two of probably the top 20 prospects in this whole draft. Where we at in the back of the first and back of the second. Who else would I say? One, I think the Cardinals did a great job. They got, in my opinion, the best D tackle and the best corner in the draft, and that bodes well for their defense. I think those three did their thing, and then the Patriots as a whole, each pick just fully complement what they need. They got a running back, a wide receiver, and two good, very good linemen. I think they're set up great for the future. For next year, you could possibly fight for a wildcard spot.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, but I love what the Buccaneers did in the draft. Getting Emeka Ibuka in the first round. I think he's a pretty surefire quality slot guy. Does a lot of things really well. Doesn't have breakaway speed, or he's not gonna make a lot of guys miss, but he's very technically sound. He has really good hands, and he's he's a safety blanket for a quarterback. He could possibly slide into that Chris Godwin role when he's ready to wrap it up. He also continues to get hurt. So they had this team going on with their weapons where it's like they have the veterans and Mike Williams and Chris Godwin, and then they have McMillan and Ibuka now as a young talent. So when those guys are ready to call it quits, they'll have quality weapons. And they also got Benjamin Morrison, who was one of the best corners in the country over the last 2 seasons, and he dealt with his issues, so he slipped. But getting him where they got him is pretty good value to get one of the best corners in the draft. I was really impressed by the Broncos as well, who got Jahdae Barron to shore up that secondary that was already really, really good. And combining Jahdae Barron with Patrick Surtain, and they got this offseason, they also got Greenlaw, as well, and added to that defense. Their defense is going to be scary. They'll probably be back in the playoffs, and they will probably going to have the best defense in the league again. I think the Texans did really well. Grabbed Jalen Higgins in the second round, and then got Ariante Ursary with good value. Definitely was the best tackle on the board when they got him. They're trying to protect C.A. Stroud. I think they probably add a little bit more to that as well. So I think a lot of good teams made some really good picks. You spoke on the Cardinals, who had a great job. The Ravens killed it. They're historically a great drafting team, and they continued it this year. Malachi Starks and Kyle Hamilton as a duo is ridiculous. Then getting Mike Green, and I know he has some off the field issues. But if he's able to stay out of trouble and contribute, with his ability to attack the quarterback, I feel like he had an argument for probably the second best pass rusher in this class, maybe third. So getting him where they got him is, if they can keep him out of trouble, it's going to be just great value. And the defense struggled to begin the season last year, and now they struggle with pass rush outside of Calvin Noe, and their secondary had issues, and now they got Malachi Starks alongside Kyle Hamilton. So they're just improving on some of their deficiencies from last season. Who else? That has some good picks.
The Cowboys did an okay job too. They get Donovan Ezeraku, they get Siobhan Revel at corner, and then they get Tyler Booker at guard. But how do you feel about Tyler Booker going at 12? There was a lot of buzz that he was gonna go higher than most people thought. But show up the O-line, they get another pass rush on the other side of Michael Parsons, and you get another corner.
Hey, I know Jaden and Max now on this episode, but I'm not gonna lie, bro. The Bears won the offseason again. The Bears won the offseason again. I know last offseason they won it. The year before that they won the offseason, but this feels like the year they're actually gonna put all the pieces together and make a playoff run. I mean,
Luther.
Not even a draft. Why am I the coach name?
Gallman, Joe Toomey.
I was thinking Brian Johnson in my head. You hire Brian Johnson, you shore up the O-line in free agency, and then you come into the draft, you get Luther Burden in the second round at that. That's just great value in the second round. Obviously, the first round pick, really great as well. So this team, in my opinion, doesn't really have like too many holes. You get Colston Loveland in the first round to play that Sam Laporta role. Ben Johnson has a clear image of what his team wants to be. And now this team is stacked with weapons. They're going to be a really good defense. Caleb Williams, the Bears, they have no more excuses not to produce on the field. It needs to be like the expectation this season should be 10 wins, 10, 11 wins. They're just that talented. Is that crazy?
The issue with that is their division already is tough, so not everybody in that division can win 10 wins, and then there's other teams in the NFC as well. Like, so it's going to be hard. Like, that's why everybody's win total is around 9 wins, because you still got the Rams, Niners that are going to that's going to put up, wins. People already expect the Commanders to still put up wins. The Eagles still put up wins. I know everybody however they feel about the Cowboys. The Cowboys aren't some 6-win team. They're not going to win six games. Like, they won 8 games last year, and they didn't have a quarterback for half the season. So they get their quarterback back. They should be hovering around 8 to 10 wins too. So it's like, even if the Bears win 9 games, I think that's a win for them, because that's probably on par for everybody else. Because the Niners probably don't win more than 10 games. The Vikings probably don't win more than 9 games. Neither would the Packers. So if the Bears and the Packers win the same amount of games, I'm not going to feel no type of way about it, just because that's how stacked the NFC is now.
I'm not a Bears fan, but I think I would be a bit disappointed for sure this season if they did make the playoffs. Because think about this offense. You got DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Luther Burden. That's a lot of mouths to feed, but that's also just a hell of a weapons room. That's a lot of offensive talent around Caleb Williams, who's supposed to be this generational quarterback, and he's ultra talented as well. So you got DJ Moore, Luther Burden, Roma Dunze, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet. The offense line is going to be a lot better. You got a much better play caller. This team should be really, really good next year. They've had back-to-back years of winning the offseason, but this year it feels even more set in stone than it did last year, because we came into last year feeling really good about the Bears' chances to make a playoff push with the roster they have, and now they just improved on that drastically. We saw some of the flaws that they had last season, and they addressed them in the draft. They addressed them in the free agency. They addressed the head coaching spot. So I'm Bears fans. I'm very, very excited going into next season. I'm very excited about what we did all this offseason, and I'm feeling good. We talked a lot about positive stuff. Now, what were some of the worst picks you've seen, Q, over the first 3 rounds of this draft?
Pick 40, Tyler Shaw to the New Orleans Saints. Horrible pick. He's 26. 3 season-ending injuries. Played 7 years. He was playing in college when Justin Herbert was playing in college. That was 6 years ago. You know what I'm saying? They talk about he could, like, obviously his physicals. He's strong arm, can run this and the third, very mobile. His footwork is nasty. His arm throwing motion is nasty. Like this, and that's beside that little clip that people see at the combine when he threw a nasty ball. Like outside of that, he's still like not a great prospect. I don't know. Like he has 1 year of like real production. It didn't even look good. I don't know why he got picked there. Whether it should have been Shedeur or not, that's neither here nor there. But it definitely should have never been Tyler Shaw. Like that's just me personally. That's the glaring one. And then again, Dylan Gabriel over Shedeur should not have went over him like that. That just shouldn't have happened. They're both average athletes, average arms, about the same size. You might as well have gone with Shedeur, who played better than Dylan Gabriel last year.
If I'm not mistaken, he's also younger than him too.
Yes, Dylan Gabriel's like 24.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll get to that. We'll talk about it because I got a lot to say about that subject. We'll get to that when we get to it. I think the Bengals had a few bad picks. I mean,
yeah,
I'm getting a little bit higher on Shamar Stewart, but I know he's very, very good in the running game. But the Bengals need someone who can get to the passer. Opposite of Trey Henderson, and he only had he had 3 sacks in 4 years, something like that. His production was very, very low as far as actual sacks. I do think he got pressure on the quarterback, wasn't able to steal the job on some of his things, but he's a really good run stuffer. Which is like the Bengals had issues with that too, but they necessarily just needed some more pressure around or pressure getting to the quarterback from last year. I understand people were also hating on the Tyler Booker pick. I'm going to err on the side of whatever the Cowboys do in terms of offensive linemen historically, because they've been able to develop offensive linemen. They've been able to put them in good positions. And
I really appreciate that. Because people act like that's crazy.
Yeah, I understand that people are skeptical of him because he's his speed and his ability to move up to the next level and stuff like that. It was just the reason why they weren't so high on the pick, but he's still young, and he'll be going to one of the best offensive line farms, I guess you want to call it, in the NFL. Looking at the Bills here, I wouldn't say they had like terrible picks. I just feel like it was solid, just pretty much solid for the Bills, especially their first pick. I think Maxwell Harrison, he moved up a lot because he had a really fast 40 time.
He's not their typical mold of like corner. Like they usually go for like a single floor, bigger body corner in their room. They don't usually go for the speed athlete that generates like interceptions and things like that. I guess they're looking for something different. A lot of people thought they were probably going to go Trey Amos, but if you're looking for somebody to take the ball away, Maxwell Harrison is the guy to take over Trey Amos. I would have went Trey. I'm not mad at any of their picks. TJ Sanders was a great pick. Harrison fills a need. They got somebody else. Landon Jackson at edge. So like everything went all defense. I think that was like their main issue. They would love an X receiver, somebody that wins fast too. But we saw last year they pretty much went the whole year without like real winners, and they still won 13 games. Would have been 14, but nobody cares about the last game. They definitely needed to show up, run stopping. So they got that. Got a corner. Like they did okay. Like they did what you could do when you're picking in at the 30s. So
Yeah. Another one of the worst picks in the entire draft was Jackson Dart at 25. That was a terrible pick, just on the sense of they didn't need to give assets to go get him. He would have definitely been there somewhere in the second round. Jackson Dart doesn't impress me at all, to be honest. When I watch him on film, when I watched him at Ole Miss this year, it's just like he played in the offense at Ole Miss. As everyone knows, they don't have a pro style offense at all. It's a lot of RPO. It's a lot of one read. And that was my issue with Matt Corral. He hadn't showed on tape that he can get through his progressions and consistently play on time at the NFL level. They play in a gimmicky offense that's really easy for college quarterbacks to understand. And while they can be productive, it doesn't translate well to the NFL. But as far as Dart as a prospect, I feel like he is a good athlete. He can, make stuff happen with his legs, but he does take too many hits. His arm is fine. I don't think it's like detrimental at all, but he doesn't have like top tier arm talent by any means. My thing with him is his technique and his ability to go through his progressions. But he's probably going to sit a year or two, and I just don't feel like his ceiling is high enough to warrant giving up capital when you could have probably got him in the second round. Now I don't know if the Browns would have selected him if he was on the board, but Jackson Dart was nowhere near QB2. Jackson Dart was nowhere near QB2 for me in this class. He was probably like 4 or so. So to overdraft him was pretty bad.
Wait,
and if
who'd you have in front of Dart?
Miro. I mean, I had Miro QB3. I mean, I don't know. I did, but
that pick gets worse the more you go down, just based off who got picked. Like you
also think
Saints probably could have took him, maybe, but that don't mean you have to move to 25. You just have to move up to 39.
Yeah, I just think also they over-indexing on this Ole Miss connection with Eli Manning thing too much, bro. Like, where the last time y'all did that, what happened? I know Daniel Jones didn't go to Ole Miss, but they was buddy with Eli Manning. I get it. You want to have a connection with your franchise, great, but like, bro, you need to be selecting the best prospect available, not someone that you have a connection with. And they may fall in love with Jackson Dart. And I still trust in Brian Dable to develop quarterbacks. And so he may look fine. I mean, he got some solid production out of Daniel Jones.
That's he wanted Jackson Dart.
All things considered, but like, take the best prospect available. 1, 2. It's like how what do we think of Brian Dable's job security on the Giants? You would give him the keys to drive the quarterback that he likes, and he may not be there for that long. He hasn't done a great job. Well, he's in an okay job so far in his tenure. Some really good seasons, some really down seasons. Has got a lot out of the. He got a lot out of a little. Made the best of what he had, but like, I don't know that his job security is so strong where he needs to be like making decisions like that. So I don't know. It was an eyebrow raiser for me, to be honest. But we can. Oh, let's talk about this because this is obviously the biggest narrative of the draft. It's going to take over the whole draft conversation and overshadow players that got picked because of a player that didn't get picked. But Q, why has Shedeur Sanders failed so much in this draft class?
The overwhelming story is it's racism, blackballed, teaching him a lesson. I'm not going to go that far to say that. I'm not about to do the same internet narratives, whatever it is. If it was anybody else, Like, it was just anybody else. Average tape, average physicals, didn't really do much of the combine before it started. Those players just don't get picked high, especially at quarterback. Like, that just doesn't happen. The evaluators and the scouts were telling you all year, pretty much they got mid-round grades on them, probably a second or third rounder. That's just what it was. Obviously, he didn't go to the second or third, but it's whatever. Teams miss on quarterbacks all the time. They either pick the right quarterback or pick the wrong quarterback. He had a mid-round grade with everything else, even the rumors, bad interview, with all those combined. Any other person, nobody would have had no issues with that player not getting picked just based off everything being average. So you're not going to pick that player that high. This Shedeur Sanders, I get it. Especially a lot of the talking heads, people like Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp, whatever. They're cool with Deion Sanders. Maybe you don't want to look bad to Deion. Deion might hit you up. Oh, wow, how you say? People don't want to deal with that. Same thing. The reverse pretty much happened with Bronny James or LeBron James, whatever it may be. Sometimes he's just not that good. Do I think he should have been drafted? Yes, obviously. Especially if you're going to draft Dylan Gabriel and Tyler Shaw. He should have been drafted in those spots. But I'm not going to blame like exterior factors on him not getting picked because I had the same evaluation. I don't think he's average, like has average physicals. He had average tape. I'm not drafting him in the first round anyway. If you draft for need, like the Steelers could have took him, but they've been in that situation before where they need a quarterback and they pick the average quarterback just because they need it and they end up not working out anyway. And they have to trade away Kenny Pickett. Now they don't got him, and now they're looking for a quarterback. Why go through that again? But if you want to play the blackball card, I guess it may have some merit. Sometimes people, scouts, interviewers, assistant coaches, they say certain things that rubs people the wrong way. It comes off as like a passive aggressive form of racism and things like that, which could very much be true, but it's all speculation. So I'm not gonna try to attack them that much. I understand this black man, he's confident, came for money, he doesn't really need anything. So he might come off as he doesn't need you. That might just be how he comes off because he's had a lot. That doesn't take away from him as a player. But sometimes, the older white people just ain't trying to hear that. And that's who runs these teams.
For me, I think this is a blatant form of collusion and blackballing. And I do not think that highly of Shedeur Sanders as a prospect. I don't think he should have won in the first round. I do think he has an average arm. I do think he's an average athlete. I do think he played an offense that wasn't a pro style offense, and it was a lot of screens and RPOs. But I do think he's.
All right, wait, stop right there. Don't say nothing else. Take away the name off the back of the jersey. Would you have drafted that player high?
No, I'm not talking about that in the first round. I never said that.
I'm just saying in general, that type of player just you wouldn't feel bad about that person not getting drafted. Like if Dylan Gabriel didn't get drafted, you probably would have never batted an eye. You would have been like, all right, whatever. Correct.
That's not the issue, but that's living in reality that we're not in. We're in a reality where, and that's why I feel like it was. This is collusion. This is why I feel like this is blackballing. I'll get to my point. So I'm not that high on Shedeur Sanders, and the real issue isn't the fact that he fell out of the second or third round. That's not my real issue. My real issue is when that happens, and then 2 to 3 other quarterbacks that were clearly worse prospects than him get drafted over him. That's my real issue, and that's what leads me to this conclusion. For months. So at the start of the cycle, after the season was over, Shedeur Sanders was regarded as QB2 in the cycle, damn near consensus. And then after that, the media twisted everything. It started coming out that he's arrogant and people not liking his answers. And then we get into these interviews with the teams, and now he's had one of the worst interviews I've ever seen in my life, and he's entitled and all this other stuff with no names attached to it. It's all these anonymous reports and anonymous GMs, and it's so much speculation, and it's tarnished his reputation as a player and his character as a player. They're not even at this point. They're over-indexing on the person they think Shedeur Sanders is, And it's not even, they don't talk about other players this way, especially to this extent. Like even someone like Baker Mayfield, who was seen as cocky and arrogant, he didn't get slandered in the media like this. Like it wasn't on this level. The shit that we just read from that article that came out a few days ago, worst interview ever in a professional setting. Like it's just too much. Like it feels like an agenda here. And also, whether or not it has merit or not, whether or not it was 100% true that all this stuff happened in these interviews, it's still collusion. It's still spreading the word. It's still spreading the word around the league that Shedeur has a terrible attitude. Shedeur is entitled. You probably shouldn't draft him. It's clear that the word has been spread around the NFL of how bad of a person or a character that Shedeur is, and that's why he hasn't been drafted. My real issue is that
don't say that's why he hasn't been drafted because we don't know that. You straight speculating on it being collusion because it's only collusion because a bad thing is happening. Because the same way they can say he's a bad interviewer, don't draft him, even though we don't know that's what's being said. The same thing happens opposite. Like I'm pretty sure that's a great guy. They do that all the time. It goes both ways.
That's true, but one of those things is
because of collusion. That's to be honest. Excuse my French. That's bullshit. That's not what happened. Like it just wasn't collusion. Maybe the players that got picked ahead of them, they just like those players better. You have to like the player coming into your organization and draft him. You're not going to draft him because if they think he's a bad person. If they came across like he's a bad person, they do not want that in their organization, whether that's the case may be or not. Nobody's saying he's a bad person, but if they don't feel like he's comfortable, they're comfortable with having him in the organization, they're not going to pick him. It doesn't have to be collusion. That's just what it is.
So you don't think that, especially since these reports came out that of how bad these interviews went, and multiple anonymous GMs said that, you don't think that they could have been spread around the NFL?
That would have happened either whether he was a good guy or bad or not. And you misstated the Baker Mayfield thing. They were slandering Baker Mayfield the whole process, like literally doing the same thing to him. And he's white. He still got drafted first because he just
I never brought up race in this situation one time.
We know what that is. Like
I never said Baker
didn't get speculate and say it's a collusion, but we can speculate. Obviously, that has a lot to do with the player, who he is, his father, and the color of his skin. That all goes into it. So let's not do one thing, but then leave out the small, tiny bit when it actually has to do with race, when it actually does, because that's mostly what this is about.
Wait, so are you saying this has to do with race?
No, but the base of the base of this isn't because he's just Deion Sanders' son. He's Deion Sanders' son, and he's a confident black man. That's pretty much the whole story. It ain't just they don't want to have Deion Sanders because it has nothing to do with that. Like it literally doesn't. He's just a confident black kid. And a lot of people don't like that. We could say that. That's fine.
So if that is the case, that he's a confident black kid, and a lot of people don't like that, why isn't that collusion then? Why isn't that blackballing? Why
that would make sense if we didn't also see another confident black kid get drafted first overall in this same draft. It has none of. If you have the great tape, if you got great tape and great physicals, all that bad interview shit does not matter. They do not care. All that arrogance and nonsense does not matter. Caleb Williams was arrogant, and people said he was arrogant many a time through the whole draft process. They was kind of giving the same spiel, but they did not care. But he's super talented. That's not happening.
I didn't see any media slander with Travis Hunter as far as him having bad interviews and him being like it's the verbiage. It's the verbiage.
Tell the demeanor between looking at Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders and tell it's different. They do not move the same at all. They don't talk the same.
That's my point. So it's entirely two different personalities with them.
And he's just a better prospect. Even if he was talking like that, he's a way better prospect. So he's going to get drafted. If you're talking like that and you're not a good prospect and you're average, you're going to get talked about. Especially if you're a quarterback.
That's fine. My problem isn't with the slide. My problem is when there's three quarterbacks that are clearly worse prospects drafted over him, which makes no sense at all. We're talking about
if you think they're clearly worse prospects, they didn't. And matter of fact, there's a lot of people that had Jackson Dart ahead of Shedeur. Nobody had
I'm
Tyler
not even
Shaw.
talking about Jackson Shaw. I'm not even
The
talking about
Tyler
that.
Shaw and the Dylan Gabriel things are inexcusable.
That's what
And
I'm
I
talking
said
about. I'm not talking about Jackson Dart. I'm
that.
talking about Milroe, Tyler Shaw, and
But even Milroe, I'd be fine taking him over Shedeur for the simple fact he has insane physicals.
yes,
That's the type of player that you take in the second, third, fourth round, something that you can mold. Because
yes.
he has everything else. We don't know. I don't really know about his character or anything because I never heard nothing about Jalen Mills' character, whatever.
He's a military kid and all that type of stuff. So he has.
Boom, I'm pretty sure people comfortable with that, regardless. But I know fast, strong arm, built, no injury history, no real injury history. I'm fine having him sit and mold and do whatever. I know it's not going to take nothing on my back. I got Sam Darnold. It doesn't really matter. Shedeur, he doesn't have any of those physical traits. He's smaller athlete,
Does he
average
have?
athlete.
Does he
And
have?
if I take him the second or third, especially to a team that doesn't need quarterback, doesn't really need quarterback, having Sanders as your backup QB, like if he was the backup in Seattle, they'd be rushing him as like the moment Sam Darnold failed, they'll be rushing to start Shedeur. And Sam Darnold is still a better quarterback than Shedeur. Like even if like you didn't see Sam Darnold, we know he's a better athlete, better physicals. His headspace is right. We went through the trials and tribulation. We'll be fine with that. But the whole media circus of having Shedeur being the backup, when you picking that also plays a part too. Like we can't functionally run our team when we have half the press talking about when Shedeur going to start. Is Deion Sanders going to come coach? That plays a part too. It's just a whole thing. It has nothing to really do with like I think it's less to do about his being arrogant, where like all the other things of the whole pie, because it's a whole pie that we're looking at. Most of that pie is just bad tape, not bad, average tape, average physicals. Like that's most of the pie right there. Then
Yeah.
you get into the small pie of the media circus of being a Sander kid, him having NIL money and his own money. So like he's not entitled to be groveling at the feet of anybody interviewing him, which probably would it seemed and felt like if I had money too, I wouldn't be beholden to a guy telling me or trying to get me to figure out what I'm going to do for him when I'm like, I got money too. Like it's a natural aura that comes off that I don't really need this. And if that came off, which most people do, if I have money, I don't care. I'm acting how I want. Not to say that he's an idiot or anything, or he's going in there acting like he's bigger than the organization, but through the whole process, you telling people you're going someplace or what you're gonna do, or this and the third, or you say this shit ain't happened, things like that don't come off because you feel like you're entitled to something. Do I feel like he's entitled? No, but a lot of things could come off how they come off, and that's just part of the process. Plenty of people throughout NFL history went through the draft process have made the wrong decisions based in the draft process, and that forced them to get to slide or go later than they ever thought they would. And based on whatever we may have said in the beginning of the year, things change throughout the year all the time.
No, it definitely changes throughout the year. So I want to talk about two of your points. I think you said one of them was so first for Miro, I really wasn't tripping on that because I mean I watched Miro every single game. I know what the talent he possessed, and he went to a situation where he doesn't need to play right away. He can go there and develop with the Seahawks with Clint Kubiak. I really wasn't tripping too much on that. It's really is Tyler Shaw and Dylan Gabriel because those two players are in situations where they don't have quarterbacks. They don't have a starting guy really there on the Saints or on the Browns. Now, also, I know what I wanted to say. You said that that if Sam Darnold was to come there and he struggled or anything like that, then they're going to be pressing for Shedeur to start, which is a good point. But for those other situations, the Browns and for the Saints, you can flip that into saying that he's going to sell tickets. He's going to bring notoriety to the team. He's going to make the owners money. So it's a double-edged sword when you talk about Shedeur Sanders with the good and the bad, especially for a franchise like the Browns who don't have a lot going for them right now, as far as like fan engagement and stuff like that, and the Saints who hate all of the quarterbacks now. So as far as the fans, so
in terms of the Saints, like I said, the Saints situation that literally just doesn't make sense. Like if they would have took Milroe I wouldn't be saying anything about the Saints either. For the simple fact, like I said, I'm cool with taking Merrill just based off physical attributes. You know what I'm saying? They took the worst, in my opinion, the worst quarterback prospect at number 2 at 40. Like I think that's inevitable. With the Browns, it could go either way with what you said because they still got Kenny Pickett there, who I'm not gonna like. We know he is in the league, but I don't think he's like drastically worse than Shedeur Sanders as like just based off physical things. I think they both have average arms. Shedeur, I'd say, is a slightly better athlete than Kenny Pickett, but Kenny Pickett has been in the league for a while, so obviously they'd start with Kenny Pickett. They still got Joe Flacco. The moment those two start to fail, then we'd be clamoring for Shedeur Sanders, but that should be a good thing anyway, because like you want to play a young quarterback. I just think with the Browns, the Saints situation just doesn't make sense. The Browns, it makes even less sense, especially when you go at the back of the third and take Dylan Gabriel. Because at that, you see me in the chat was like, the Browns should take Shedeur right here, or I thought the Raiders should take him just because have him as a backup as Tom Brady. Like I've said, take Shedeur. Like I'm not saying he didn't belong, but I'm not gonna like lean all the way into like collusion because he didn't get drafted. When myself, I thought he wasn't even gonna really supposed to be a first rounder in the beginning of the year. That didn't change throughout the end of the year. I thought he should be a second, third rounder. I'm still a little mad. I think he should have been a second, third rounder, but I'm not gonna call it collusion because a lot of evaluators had him as a mid round grade anyway.
My eyebrow starts to raise when I see in my opinion, and I think probably the consensus, 2 quarterbacks at minimum who are much worse prospects than him. That's when my eyebrow starts to raise. And I have a problem with the verbiage of some of these reports that have came out surrounding Shedeur Sanders as far as like the interview process. Bad interviews, okay, yes, that's cool. It wants to slide or whatever. Saying like I have a problem with, oh, this is one of the worst professional interviews I've ever seen. That feels a little bit over the top to me. And we have to realize like, okay, this is a polarizing polarizing player, not polarizing prospect, polarizing player because of all like of his father and his confidence. But for some players, and Baker Mayfield is an outlier, but for some, we got to keep 100. So one group of people can have this confidence and say, "Oh, this is a mistake that somebody was drafted over me, or I'm the best quarterback in this draft." All this type of stuff. Another group says the same thing, and it's taken very differently in the eyes of these owners and these teams. It just is. So I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if the word like and all these guys connected. All these guys connected. The GMs, the owners, like they talk a lot.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
And so
they were in the league.
"Oh, like." I don't know Shedeur personally, nothing like that. I just can't. I just like. I don't believe what they're telling. Like they're saying in these reports of he's just so unprofessional because we've seen him treat people with respect. Like he's confident in himself. Have we seen him ever disrespect anybody? Not really. The thing with him, like when he was like called his teammate mid, was kind of crazy. Not gonna lie.
It's certain
bad moments, but like
certain things like you could, no doubt, a person could on one hand show great leadership and on the other hand also not show great leadership. Again, I'm not saying this is Shedeur. I'm not saying this is what it is, what it ain't. Also, them two the anonymous execs or whoever they are, it seemed like they like the words they use kind of like started a smear campaign against his character, which I totally understand. It's like they didn't have to go through those extents. That's one. Two, a lot of people like, oh, these anonymous people, put your name to it, blah, blah, blah. People, it's like people don't understand journalism. When you want to get when you like people that get like stories and things like that, they get scoops on things. A lot of times they have anonymous sources. That's how you get the best source. Because if you start giving your name out and then people start slandering you, nobody ever going to talk to you again if you start putting your name on certain things, especially information that nobody really wants to like know that came from them. A lot of people do. Your own man's will probably tell you all the time, "Hey, yo, bro, but you ain't get that from me though." You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna, and I'm not gonna relay the message and then say it came from buddy after he told me don't say it came from him. Obviously, he wanted to keep that under wraps. So I'm not too like I don't really care about the whole anonymous thing. That doesn't give you a right to like go overboard and start saying the most outlandish things about a person. But also, yeah, like you said, Shedeur, he's called his teammates mid. Like him and his pops have literally went at other kids that used to go to the school, play for the team. I think that's a strike, especially when we're talking about quarterback, leader of your team, the person that's supposed to rally the troops and lead you out there on the football fields. Things like dapping up the other quarterback after the end of the game and like doing things like not dapping them up and things like that. That's nobody wants to see that. At the end of the game, everybody shake hands. Quarterbacks, especially like me in the middle of the field, dab up, talking and things like that. That's just natural occurrence. You don't really do that much, especially if a person that says something about, oh, they said they were going to beat him and things like that. Certain little king, but then he's still 22 years old. Things like that could get learned. I don't think quarterbacks should be like they should be held to the higher standard of like over a wide receiver. But like we still got to remember these are 22-year-olds. They're not going to be fully mature. And actually, for somebody to be fully mature at 22 it's like a tall order. Like there's a lot of immature kids at 22 years old, regardless if they had money or not.
Yeah, and I think Shedeur's floor is a quality backup. I think he can be a solid starter in the league or whatever. Nothing crazy. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback or anything like that. And so maybe that's the logic. Like these guys that we're drafting here in the third round are probably going to be backup guys, transitional guys. So we would rather have the quarterback that doesn't have the character concerns. But from what I've seen of Shedeur, it seems unfounded to the level of to where they're painting it with him, and of the historical context of black quarterbacks that have exerted this level of confidence, like for sure. But we'll see. I'm definitely rooting for him now. I'm on the side. I think Mike Tomlin's going to pick him up. Mike Tomlin, for obvious reasons. So maybe in a third or in the fourth round, fifth round, we'll see. If he goes undrafted, we'll have to revisit this conversation. We'll have to revisit this.
The Steelers, and just so you know, Mike Tomlin, Deion Sanders are very, very close. Like very close. Shedeur, very close. They're cool. So if it was like who we know Mike Tomlin, that he's known for taking on a lot of players with character issues. Like we know if they got character issues, Mike Tomlin got them. So if it was really that bad, he didn't even pick Shedeur when they clearly need a quarterback. Again, just because you need a quarterback does not mean waste first round capital on quarterback if you're not sure if he's going to be a franchise player or not. If he wasn't comfortable taking him at first, I'm not going to be up in arms if the Steelers ain't take him in the first round. If they take him in the fourth, so be it. But if you're not going to take him in the first, I'm not going to be too up in arms if the Steelers pass on the quote unquote character guy.
All right, let's move on to winners and losers at the NFL draft. Who are your winners?
Chiefs, Patriots, Chargers. Yeah, Chiefs, Patriots, Chargers. And I'm gonna say the Jags. I'm only gonna say the Jags because they might have gotten the best player in the draft. They did give up next year's capital to get him, next year's first to get him, but technically you got two players. They still got a corner, and they still got one of the top-rated guards in the league in coming out of college. So like they got better on the O-line, better in the weapon room, and better in the cornerback room all at the same time. And they still got some more picks to worry about.
My biggest winner, well, not the biggest winner, but one of my winners for the NFL draft was the Browns. They had a really good draft, in my opinion. They moved out of 2, which some people are going to hate on because they didn't get Travis Hunter, but they got a lot of draft capital for moving out of 2. They moved 3 picks down and got a treasure chest of draft assets. They also picked up a really nice player in Mason Graham, who they probably just wanted him anyways, and they were fine getting him at 5. One of the best D tackles in the draft, hands down. They also got Quinshawn Junkins in the second round, and they also picked up Harold Fannin Jr. as well in the third round. I really liked getting him as a weapon under David Njoku for the time being. They don't like their last pick with Dylan Gabriel, so they kind of messed it all up with the quarterback. Well, they didn't mess it all up, but they kind of brung it down by driving Dylan Gabriel. Especially since Deshaun Watson is going to be returning from injury. So I'm pretty sure they're going to probably play him or Kenny Pickett. So we'll see. But they got Kevin.
No, he's out for the season.
Who?
Deshaun.
I know that. I'm talking about Kenny Pickett or Dylan Gabriel. Kevin Stefanski has done pretty well with players that can just hit receivers on time, on target, that lack athleticism. Kevin Stefanski is one of the best QB elevators in the NFL as far as coaches. My problem with Dylan Gabriel is that he also played one of those offenses where there's a lot of screens, a lot of one read offense. Well, a lot of the college offenses are like that, but Oregon is one of the premier ones where it's just one read, RPO, a lot of play action, quick screen passes. His arm talent is not it's super average. His athleticism is super average. His size and stature is super average. He's left-handed, I believe. So it's like just I kind of almost talked myself out of there with just the Dylan Gabriel pick. But the rest of it, Quinshon Judkins, and also Mason Graham and Harold Fannin Jr., those are really good picks in my opinion. And they also drafted Carson Schweisinger in the first round. Or in the second round, pardon me, with their first pick in the second round. So I think the Broncos, who I mentioned earlier, had a really good draft. The Cardinals, obviously, Walter Nolan at 16 is great value. Will Johnson at like 47 is great value. And they got Jordan Burch from Oregon as well. Had a really good draft. Obviously, the Bears, who we talked about earlier, had a really good draft. Is there anyone else that comes to mind? I think Green Bay did well. You mentioned the Chiefs also did well. Outside of the Jackson Dart pick, Darius Alexander and Abdul Carter is just great to add to that pass rush. Their pass rush is going to be
They might have the best D-line in the league.
Yeah, they don't have one of the better D-lines in the league this season with Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence. I don't know why I mentioned Kayvon Thibodeau so early in that period. I don't know why I did that. But they're going to have one of the best D-lines in the draft or in the league next season. So Giants did a lot of things well outside of the Jackson Dart pick, and maybe he can prove us wrong. But who are your losers?
I don't know if it's not like big losers. Like there's not no like big loser to me. But I think like a couple of teams missed opportunities. Like the 49ers, they had a decent draft, but I think they missed opportunities to get better at other positions. Like they went edge rusher and D tackle, which they do need, but I think they should have focused all their attention on the O-line, especially if you're going to pay, or they look to be planning on paying Brock Purdy $50+ million. I think the Saints are losers because you picked a 26-year-old, 27-year-old injury-prone quarterback who's had 1 year of production. Like Kelvin Banks is a good pick, but that squanders if you're not protecting nobody. Like Tyler Sharp's just not a good quarterback to me. Like I think they lose the draft based on that, like that alone.
The Browns?
Yeah. I just think they lost the draft. Like I think you could talk yourself into everybody that drafted into them being winners, except for the Saints and Atlanta. I think Atlanta, they gave up next year's capital to move up into the first round and get a player they already have in their roster. Like James Pierce is Leonard Floyd. They have one move to get to the pass, and that's it. And Leonard Floyd is better than James Pierce probably ever will be. And you wasted next year's capital to get up and go get him when you could have got better value at where you were probably at in the second round and got the same level of pass rusher. Yeah. So I think that was a L move. Surprisingly, both in the same division.
I want to go back a little bit to the winners. For me, forgot to mention this. The Eagles are just proving to consistently be great at drafting.
They get a default win every year just because they have a great route. And no matter what they pick, it's always going to fit. Like I'm not even going to say the Eagles ever won because we already know they won the draft. I could wake up tomorrow, not know what they did. Like I could have not watched what they did this whole draft weekend, and I would have said they won anyway without knowing who they picked.
Yeah, Howie Roseman is just consistently in his bag. They already have like a super team, and now they're just adding pieces on it. The rich are getting rich. The richer is getting richer. Like Jahad Campbell at what pick 31.
31. They moved ahead of the Chiefs to get
Yeah,
him, which they probably didn't have to do, but they did anyway, and they only lost out on the 5th round pick to get him.
I think other teams are calling the Chiefs.
Yeah, probably get him. And the thing with him is like Jalen Walker is the same mold of player. People think like in my opinion, Jahad Campbell's what people think Jalen Walker is, a better stand up linebacker, and I think Jahad Campbell's a better edge rusher. And they got him at 31.
Yeah,
and then they got Makuba at safety, who I think was probably like the third best safety at worst in this draft. So
yeah, I really like Jahad Campbell. Watching him this year, he's great. In the passing game, he's great at in the running game. He's great at attacking the quarterback. So they got to study him. And with at 31, this is a great value. It was a position in need as well. Their linebacking situation has really improved over the last 2 seasons, especially since it was terrible in 2022, 2023. I think. And then also they got Andrew Makuba from Texas, one of the better safeties in this class. Which it's not a position to need, but like they're filling in spots where it's just improving on the margins. They did a great job in the draft, improving on the margins, and that's going to keep them probably as favorites to repeat in the NFL season next year. They're going to be favorites to actually repeat in the Super Bowl this year, in my opinion. I'm probably going to pick the Eagles. The Chiefs got better, and it's hard to pick against Patrick Mahomes, but they just have the best roster in the league right now, and they got better. So, and they also might be getting Jalen Ramsey. So who knows, bro? But
who might be getting Jalen Ramsey?
The Eagles.
Says who?
I saw a report. That's all. I mean, they got to do something. Losers were the Bengals. Again, it wasn't like to me a lot of losers in this draft. But yeah, I just felt like they needed more. They needed a pass rusher, and they drafted more of a run stopper. Someone he also can attack off the edge as well. In the first round, by drafting Shamar Stewart or whatever. But yeah, I didn't really like that move. What else did they do? Let me see, because it
was like the linebacker who was probably like who wasn't even on like my top, like one of my top 5 linebackers personally at like their 2nd round pick, and then they got a guard that I don't even know. Like I didn't know who that was that they picked up in the 3rd. Just because I don't know who they were, don't mean they're not good. But if nobody was talking about them, that's probably for a reason.
Yeah, I don't know. He's not that great. I don't think he's that great in pass coverage as far as the linebacker Demetrius Knight, South Carolina. He played on a great defense though. But yeah, I don't like what the Bengals did. To be honest, but I think they're gonna just give a lot to defense in this draft, as they should though, because they need it really badly. Hopefully he can overplay. Well, not overplay, but prove me wrong is what I should say. Let's move on to the NBA. Orlando Voids going down 3-0. I think Paolo and Franz combined for 61 in his game. Paolo's averaging like 32, 9, and 4 in this series, I believe. Franz is averaging like 27 or 25 points per game, 6 and 4. They put the teams on their back as much as they can in the series, and they avoided the 3-0 sweep today. Played some really good defense in the 3rd quarter, held the Boston Celtics to 11 points. The Boston Celtics tried to come back in that 4th quarter, couldn't get it done. They held them off and stole one at home. So my question to you is, I mean, we obviously know the Celtics are going to win, so I'm not going to ask about their chances in the series. But what are the Magic showing you that they need to improve on in this playoff series against one of the better teams in the league? What's your confidence level in a Franz and Paolo pairing? Thoughts on Paolo's playoff performance? Because it's like what now 10 games of him elevating his game in the playoffs. So what's your overall thoughts on all that stuff I just mentioned?
The Paolo playoff rising thing reminds me a lot of like Anthony Edwards, like especially before when he was an average to below average shooter in the regular season. Come playoffs, he's a sniper from the mid range. And then watch him get better every year, even through the regular season, as a better shooter. Not that Paolo became like a very great shooter during the regular season, but come playoff time, he's just the things that we thought he couldn't do in the regular season, he just happens to do in the playoffs. Maybe that's due to him getting forced to do those things, especially or they're giving it to him regardless. He's making them. He has to convert. The confidence in Apollo Franz pairing. The only way I feel confident in that is if it looks exactly a mirror image of what it looks like for the Boston Celtics, the team that they're playing right now. Like I know they broke. I forgot who it was, but if you do, in my opinion, if you do switch Tatum and Brown for Paolo and Franz, I'm not saying they win a championship, but feel very confident in that team making deep playoff runs every year just based off how good they playing right now. Obviously, Franz like Fowler aren't as good as JB and Tatum, but it's close enough that the superior talent on that Boston Celtics squad allow you to think that this team would that the team would be a lot better. Uh, Obviously, they're not going to win, and if they do want to get better, they're probably going to have to get a lot more shot making, especially on the perimeter. A lot to be desired. We've been asking Orlando to basically do that for 2 years. Might happen this summer. Usually, it tends to happen after big losses. Last year wasn't the time to do it. That's your first playoff run. You usually want to see how things go and whatnot. But after this one, they're definitely forced to make some moves. They have to get better on the perimeter, better shot making, um, better depth, especially at the center position. Somebody that can confidently stretch the floor and defend the basket. Like Wendell Carter Jr. is just like the bottom of the barrel when it comes to that type of big. You just need a better version of him, and then they could probably make some noise, especially with this whole second apron thing. Teams aren't only going to be as good at for like 2-3 year windows. Paulo's 22, 23, Franz 24. Like they're young enough, but I don't know if we've got time to wait, especially with money coming around and teams getting better and teams always making changes.
I still like what the Magic have as far as Franz and Paolo. Now they're two extremely flawed players, but they're still very young. They need to make improvements on their jump shot shooting, specifically. Paolo needs to improve as a playmaker. Franz needs to improve drastically as a shooter because his shot has just his shot has fell off a cliff, and that's putting it nicely. But I think what they're showing in the series is that they can be impactful together as a duo. It's not going to always look pretty. It's not going to always look the most efficient, and they need to improve on their efficiency to increase their ceiling. But this team is just devoid of offensive talent outside of Franz and Paolo. Even when Mo Wagner comes back, even when Jalen Suggs come back, they need to add more perimeter shooting. They need to add a point guard to get Paolo and Franz easier looks around the basket and at the rim. I just said the same thing, but like they need to get them off the ball more because both of those guys are not great off ball players at a stage. Paolo could benefit from being a screener and actions more and using his vision to play make out the short roll. Like they just need to be a lot more creative in how they use these two players, in my opinion. And they probably need to this offseason fire Jamal Mosley, fire the GM, just do a whole like fresh start, not rebuild, like a retool, like a quick little retool because and that may sound drastic, but I really don't think Jamal Mosley is the coach to put this team over the top. He's not creative enough offensively at all. The GM has made really bad decisions, in my opinion. It's been up and down. He made a really good decision with the Vucevic trade, getting Franz, but then Anthony Black, while I think he still has some promise, does not fit his team because he needs the ball in his hands to be the most effective, in my opinion. What else did he do? He drafted Caleb Houston, which Caleb Houston is Caleb Houston. I'm blanking on dude's name because he's a really big reach.
What you talking about, Jeff Howard?
Yes, he reached on Jet Howard. Everybody knew that was a bad pick at the time. He was a specialist that only shoot, and he hasn't even shot that well. It's just like pretty bad roster decisions, pretty bad drafting decisions, over and over again. So I would like a fresh start for them sooner rather than later. If not this offseason, next offseason. They're probably not going to do it, especially if they like potentially take the substance 6. And because they were so injured this year, I doubt Jamal Moses gets fired because he had an injured team. So like you give him the benefit of the doubt. But they have two really good players in Franz and Paolo. I don't know if they mesh that well together, but they cannot give up on them anytime soon. So they got to do the best to build a competent roster around those two players and like make them try to work. But Jalen Suggs also continues to get injured. Cole Anthony's not good. Wendell Carter has fell off really badly. It's just not a great team. But really great win for them. They have a really good floor because they are still a great defense, even with Jalen Suggs out, even with Mo Wagner not being there, even with Goga not being in rotation. They still have a really good defense. And it showed in that third quarter tonight. As far as the Celtics, not having Drew today, I think really hurt them a lot. Jaylen Brown and Tatum had a lot of turnovers, which is credit to the Magic defense. And they didn't shoot as well from three as they usually do. Kristaps Porzingis has really struggled in this series because he hasn't been able to take advantage of mismatches. And when he has been, the shots haven't been falling for him. It's really a problem with his process because he just shoots contested mid-ranges a lot. So he's struggling in this series. The Celtics are going to be fine. They're probably still going to be in the finals. But everybody gives up a game or two on the way to the finals run. So not too worried about that. But we had another game tonight in the NBA. Pacers, not the Pacers. It's actually the Bucks. This headline is wrong. The Bucks used a second half explosion to avoid 3-0 deficit. What did you see in this game, Q? Can the Bucks build off this win and potentially still win a series? Because I feel like a lot of people have, wrote the Bucks off for this series and picked the Pacers to win a series now that they were up 2-0. The Bucks get a win in game 3. Do you feel like they can come back in the series and win it?
No. And like,
hold on. Go ahead.
They won this game. The Bucks won the game, but it's the context around how they won the game. Like Giannis was Giannis, but you got a 37-point night from Gary Trent Jr. That just can't happen. And like Dame just got back. He's not the best offensively. He's, to be quite frank, he's been bad. Just hasn't played ball in basically a month and a half. Obviously coming off a very scary like health concern. So it's like I'm not gonna kill Dame for not being Dame Lillard, but you can't rely on Gary Trent Jr. every night. And like it's not as easy to say just take away his 37 and just like scatter those shot attempts around everybody else because it's not the same. Like it's not gonna be the same process. The Pacers are pretty much themselves today. Missed a couple of shots they wish they actually had made, and game would have been closer. But Giannis is good enough to get him a game. I think this game was more about the Pacers than it was about the Bucks. They just looked like they took their foot off the gas, kind of thought it was easy, whatever it may be. I have full confidence Pacers are probably going to win the next 2 games and this series out before Dame has a chance to really get in rhythm. And that's really what the clock that they're racing against. How fast they can get out this series before Dame actually puts it on and like actually makes this a series. I think that's really what they focus on. And I don't think the Bucks have any new wrinkles to throw out there to actually get them a win other than Giannis being an all-time great and Dame being an all-time great alongside him. And I don't think that's happening game 4, game 5.
I do. Yeah, I fully agree with you. I think Dame really struggled tonight. It's just a lot to ask Dame to miss a month. With probably how traumatizing a blood clot can be and how stressful a blood clot can be, and just have him come in the playoffs and expecting to play at a really high level. That's a lot to ask of Dame. Dame is a extremely tough player. Dame barely misses games. He has a killer mentality. But that's still a lot to ask of a human being. I'm still confident that the Pacers are going to win a series. I think the Bucks can win one more game. I think they win. I think the Pacers probably win a 6. That was my initial prediction. even when Dame is on and Giannis is on, I still think they can lose the series because I don't think they have enough defense. Tonight, I think the Pacers were in a very uncharacteristic like shooting slump. Like they didn't hit as many shots as they normally do. Their defensive process was also very bad compared to the previous two games in the series. Giannis is going to get his. This is a very easy matchup for him in terms of the personnel. They don't have the personnel to guard him at all. He's an all-time great player. They don't have the defense to guard him. He's going to eat throughout this whole series. He's probably going to average 35 this series pretty easily. But that's not going to be enough. Gary Trent Jr. had the game of his life today. I don't know where that came from. But they also made subtle adjustments. Like Brook Lopez didn't play a lot tonight because he was getting played on the floor in the previous two games, which is a rare good adjustment from Doc Rivers. But don't the Bucks have enough firepower? Don't they have enough defense to actually win the series? It was more so like a blimp in the role for the Pacers, who I think is an extremely dangerous team. Halliburton didn't have a good game again. He didn't have a good game efficiency-wise again today. In game one, he also didn't have a good game efficiency-wise. But this one, he actually more so struggled in from the field. So, Pascal Siakam was good as usual. But I think if the Bucks tie it up 2-2, they are at home. If they tie it up 2-2, that would get interesting. Now that would be like, can Dame put it together? Can Giannis pull off the series? And if Giannis is able to get out, of this first round, I would be very, very impressed with him because I think the Pacers are a much better team than the Bucks. Like, I don't really think it's close at all. I think they're better. They're the better roster. They have the better coach. They're just overall the better team. And if Giannis goes all-time great mode and is able to get him out of the first round, I'm going to give him a lot of credit for that, especially since he hasn't been able to get out of the first round in a few years, whether that's due to injury or whether that's just due to like underperforming himself. So
that's the first playoff game he's won since 2022, by the way.
Yeah, and that adds a lot of context. But him getting to the second round, I will be impressed because I think this team is much better than him. Also, I'm not really gonna hold it against him. I'm not gonna really hold it against him if the Bucks lose because he's just playing great. The team is clearly not good enough. He hasn't been the same defender he once was as far as impacting the game, but you can't really fault him for it if they lose the series, in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't say that as a slight. I was just saying that's just how long it's been since we actually seen him, win a playoff game, and that's due to injury, team construction, like a whole lot of things happen. Like it's just been that long. So it's like if he could win a series, it's like, oh.
Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels combined for 59 points to take a 2-1 lead and spoil LeBron James' 38-point night. The Timberwolves went on a 13-1 run in a clutch to end his game, and the Lakers' offense just fell apart. Luka was dealing with a stomach injury. He played really badly tonight. Austin Reeves did not play up to his part, and he has not been playing well this whole entire series. The Timberwolves' defense looked pretty good to end his game. Jamie Downs had 30 points. Anthony Edwards was clutch down the stretch. He had 30 and 7. Julius Randle has been having a good series, and he played well in his game. You picked, I think, the Lakers in 6. I think a lot of people, not saying you, but a lot of people, when this series was announced, Lakers fans were saying this is going to be an easy series. They were saying, oh, Julius Randle, Anthony Edwards, we're going to blitz him. They don't have enough offense. We are 3 games in now. What do you feel about the pick that you made in the beginning of the series? How confident are you that the Lakers are going to win a series?
I'm going to start here. One thing we know, Anthony Edwards somehow finds a way to be better in the postseason in any aspect that it may be. Early was him being a shooter. Then it was him becoming a great pull-up shooter. Now he's a great three-point shooter. We know he's not the greatest of playmaker, but you can't really, if you don't glimpse too hard, it looks like he actually knows how to make certain reads, on a consistent level, just based off these 3-game samples. So I want to give a lot of credit for him because he always gets better. That's happens when you're very talented and you have a lot of time. You're young, a lot of energy. Like you have the time to put in the craft, especially spending the summer with all-time greats. Like, you get to learn things, you pick things up, things like that. You allows him to, add it to his game and whatnot. Now with this whole Lakers and how everybody thought it was going to be easy series, I think people got too enamored with like seeding. Like the Lakers are the 2 seed, Minnesota's the 7 seed, but they're a 7 seed that won one less game.
3-6. 3-6.
Yeah, yeah, 3-6. They won one less game than you, 1 or 2, something like that. This is the same level of team, and they started off like 500 and like went on a crazy stretch. Just nobody was paying attention to the Timberwolves based on how they started. Julius Randle, known playoff dropper beforehand. I like to say it's mostly because he was always hurt, when he was always put in positions where he had to be counted on a lot more than he should have. Because the role is lessened, he's playing better. I'm not saying he's a great playoff performer, but he's at least around his regular season self in this playoff come around. You get Jaden McDaniels. People been waiting for his offensive leap for the longest. I still don't think like he's taking a great offensive leap. He just has a lot of opportunities. The way the Lakers defense is giving him a lot. Him, Julius Randle, Dante, Nasri, they're getting a lot of chances to get a lot of open shots off, a lot of closeout opportunities, especially when you're not running no Jackson Hayes, no real big. Jaden McDaniels is 6'9", 6'10". He's pretty much one of the tallest players on the court. Allows him to get into the paint easier, can finish around the basket, put that mid-range up, little floater, things like he's allowed to do a lot more things, especially if they're going to try to trap and blitz in. He's usually going to be on the other end of one of those cross-court passes, whatever it may be, and he's just forced to make an attack from there. The Lakers don't have a bunch of great defenders. They don't have a bunch of lengthy defenders either. They're tall, but they're tall enough to match up with those certain lineups, but they're not quick enough or maybe long enough, so they're just taking advantage of them. They don't have a real, like, Dorian Finney-Smith is a good defender. He's not like somebody that you want on Ant all the time. Like, he's just not good enough to, like, constantly keep up with Ant, who's relentlessly trying to get down to the basket. Due to all those factors and them just being more athletic, more long, it makes it a tough series for a slower-paced team. Well, not team, but, like, LeBron and Luka, they're not, like, at this stage, they're not the fastest of, like, players when it comes to, like, making moves. They're just methodical, and sometimes it's just not. It's like styles clash, and it's just not the series for that. Obviously, you said Luka was dealing with some stomach bug. That may have had a lot to do with it. A lot of things were uncharacteristic. I think they're doing a lot of too much mismatch hunting instead of trying to get a great shot. I think that's like more coaching than anything else. I think they have to tweak that. I feel fine thinking the Lakers are going to win next game and then go back to LA tied 2-2. I'm pretty confident in that. Obviously, like I never thought it was going to be hard because I think this roster is a great roster. Not a great roster, but a good enough roster. Like, the pieces in the aggregate pretty much match up with anybody else. I just thought when it came down to it, the two best players in the series are going to win you some games, and we'll know what it looked like come the end. But I still think Luka and LeBron can win you 3 more games in this series.
Coming into this series, I felt like it was going to be easy for Lakers. I was a bit wary because they don't have great point of attack defense for Ant. They don't have a rim protector. They don't have a lot of great athletes. And that's where I feel like Minnesota had the advantage. And Minnesota was also a much deeper team. And that's kind of manifested in this series. They don't really match up that well against the Timberwolves. They tried to make Ant a playmaker, and he has diced them up. He's made really simple, easy reads, but they don't have a way to contain the ball at all. He gets to the paint whenever he wants to, and even for the worst playmaker, they're able to make the easy looks. And if they're going to shoot as well, they've been shooting from 3 in some of these games, then you're going to lose. And that's what's been happening with the Lakers. The Lakers offense has been really underwhelming in this entire series. Like, throughout all the games, even in the game they won, the offense was underwhelming. They're spending too much time ISOing and trying to mismatch hunt. And it has some success, mostly Luka. But I think it disrupted the flow of the offense as far as their shooters. I think that Minnesota has the defenders and athletes to make that tough shots. Well, to make them take tough shots consistently. And Luka has some unreal shot making, but it's still tough shots. It's still not great process. And I think that's really manifested. Like, it's too much unorganized offense. It's too much your turn, my turn with this offense. And the defense is just not anywhere near as good enough at containing the ball or protecting the rim. LeBron had a great game. He hadn't been great yet in the series. He had a great game tonight. Down the stretch, though, I think he tried to defer to Luka a little bit, and Luka just didn't have it going tonight because he potentially had that stomach bug, and then I think LeBron got out, read him a little bit. They took some crazy shots, a lot of like long possessions where the ball wasn't popping at all. They weren't really moving the ball a lot, in my opinion, down the stretch of the game. And without a big that can like roll and get to the rim, it makes Luka a little bit worse, like, in my opinion. Like, he's still a hell of a player, still top 3 player in the world, but he's best in my opinion when he has a rim running big who's a really good screener. He can get downhill, and he has like vertical spacers and stuff like that. He doesn't have a vertical spacer on his team. Oh, Jackson Hayes, but like, come on, bro. Are we being serious? Like,
you can tell based on like when you watch him drive, especially once he picks the ball up, they stay grounded. Like, nobody's jumping. Like, they don't get a lot of shooting fouls from off the Timberwolves. Like, they just don't commit that because they staying grounded. You're either gonna put the shot up or you're gonna stop. You're gonna pump. You're gonna try and get somebody on the cut. We got long enough defenders to try to like get into those lanes. A lot of their fouls come on the floor, in off screens, things like that, like, little ticky-tack things, little bumps, but not no real shooting foul to like really get them in trouble. They're not forcing a lot of issues. That's really the problem. Like, just watch when they drive. Minnesota's just very disciplined in their game plan, and it's working for them. Like, that's just it. Like, Luka and LeBron have to be phenomenal for them to come out this series, which, like I said, I'm okay with. If they have to use a lot of their bullets to get out this series, I'm cool, because I think they could get out the second round series a lot easier than they would in this series. Like, I think they have a better time beating the Rockets just because the Rockets just don't have no offensive player like Anthony Edwards. Like, and they don't have the other pieces that the Timberwolves have. Like, I think the Rockets are just the worst version of the Timberwolves. Like, they're just not there, especially on the offensive end. And I think the Warriors, they'd be coming into that series hobbled based off of what we know from Jimmy, and Steph is going to be carrying a load, especially the next couple games that Jimmy's out. Steph is going to be super tired, so I think they have an easier second-round matchup. So if they want to get this series, they literally have to put everything on the table, go supernova. They can't waste another LeBron James game like that again.
Yeah, I want to see the Lakers run more organized offense. I don't know what they're going to do to adjust against getting to the paint and creating. But I think, Jaden McDaniels has had a really good game. He's had a down game, and he's had a really good game. So we got to see how they manage that. I think he probably plays well. He plays better at home. So we'll see. But I do think the Lakers are in serious danger of losing the series and going home in the first round. But again, I pretty much never really thought that trade was for this year. They still have a lot of holes to fill in this roster. And so it wouldn't be the worst thing to me for them to be losing. Obviously, with how they play at times to end the season, you kind of want higher hopes, getting a third seed. You don't want to lose to the Timberwolves. But the Timberwolves, again, I kept saying this, they're a great team. They had one of the highest net ratings in the league, top 10 offense, top 10 defense, really good 3-point shooting team. So theoretically, more people should probably pick the Wolves in this series. And I was kind of going back and forth with it. I think it was me being scared to pick against LeBron type of thing, and my bias towards LeBron, which is why I didn't want to do it. But yeah, that's gonna do it for episode 142, I believe. We probably split this up and drop it as a draft video, and then we probably won't, because there are gonna be games going on in the morning tomorrow. So we'll just drop it at one episode probably. Stay tuned for more NBA content, NFL content. We're about to get back more consistent as the semester ends. That's why we haven't been as consistent, because school is getting really tough right now. But that's why Max and Jaden are here. But thank you guys for watching. It's 1:00 in the morning. We're gonna get out here and go to sleep. Love y'all. We out.